My hands trembled as I stared into the empty safe. 7 generations of promises vanished. The one person with the key, my brother. And in that silence, I realized some betrayals arrive quietly, like thieves who already live inside the house. My name is Ava Merrill. For most of my life, the mansion on the cliff was more than a house. It was memory, instruction, and ritual. The ocean wind carried my grandmother's voice across the yard. The piano in the parlor held her melodies like footprints in dust. She raised us to be careful with money and tender with each other. Her rules were simple. Honor the past, protect the family, and never sign anything without reading every line. After she passed, the world felt smaller and louder all at once. The rooms swallowed light differently. Night came with a metallic taste. I moved through shadows, half expecting her to appear at the top of the stairs, humming the tune she always hummed when company came. Instead, there were silence and the slow creak of the old house grieving. We shared the keys. It was a symbol as much as a safeguard. Caleb and I promised to guard the legacy the way we guarded family photos, with reverence. I thought that promise would last longer than grief. Small things began to shift. Caleb's jokes felt forced. He started avoiding tea in the parlor where Grandma's portrait hung. Once, I found him staring at the fireplace for a long time, like he'd misplaced a memory. He had always been punctual, a man of lists. Lately his lists had holes in them. At dinner, his fork would hover. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I tried to speak about the executors' meeting, the repairs the house needed, about selling a parcel of land to fund restoration. He nodded, but at the edges of each sentence his mind wandered. Once, late at night, I woke and found him in a chair by the window, calculating something on a phone I'd never seen him use. He put it away when I asked too quickly, and laughed like everyone else would laugh at nothing at all. My gut tightened, but I let the unease sit there like a bruise. I told myself to be patient. I trusted him. That trust was a warm anvil I had lived on. It never occurred to me the anvil could be used to crush the chest it warmed. The first sign of real danger was subtle, a bank notice half hidden under a stack of old letters. Small overdrafts at first, then letters from debt collectors, cleverly addressed to our grandmother's estate. I confronted him gently, hoping for a mistake, an explanation. Caleb's face folded like paper. He said not to worry. He promised to fix it. Promises became the currency of our late nights. But promises don't pay architects or legal fees. And promises certainly don't bring back what's gone. The storm that night was a character. It battered the house as if desperate to pry out secrets. The lights flickered. Rain hacked at the windows. I moved toward the safe with a notebook of items to catalog for the executor, deeds, bonds, sentimental things, and my chest felt hollow. Combination turned. The safe opened. The cold from inside hit my face. I leaned in and saw only metal and echoes. No certificates. No envelopes. No antique watch that had belonged to our grandfather. My knees buckled. The room narrowed until all I could hear was the rain and my blood in my ears. Caleb came in then, his silhouette against lightning. He froze when he saw my face. He began, hands searching for words. Where is it? The sentence came out clipped, a blade. He sank into a chair like someone who'd been pushed off a cliff. In his hands he clutched a folded paper, the one with the bank's name on it. Ava, I thought I could fix it. I thought I could make a decision that would secure us. His voice tore. I invested in something big. It was meant to multiply, to save things for our family. You stole it, I said, the word raw. The accusation tasted like iron. It felt final. He flinched as if the word had physical weight. I didn't mean for it to go like this. He looked like a man watching a house burn from inside. I thought I could make everything better. You made it worse. My voice was quieter than I expected. You forged signatures, Caleb. You put our grandmother's name on documents she never saw. This isn't an investment gone wrong. This is theft. The words landed between us, sharp as glass. He looked at me like a stranger. For a long moment, the only sound was the storm and the soft, incredulous whimper that came from his chest. That night the house felt like a courtroom where the accused sat across from the jury. In the days that followed, our world became papers and people. Lawyers arrived like winter. Audit firms combed through transactions with magnifying lenses and unforgiving questions. Each discovery widened the fissure. Wire transfers to accounts overseas, loans taken out using forged endorsements, a quiet sale of a small but sentimental cottage on the property. Neighbors began to whisper. Old friends who once shared coffee on Sunday mornings now avoided eye contact. A cousin texted asking if we needed help financially or emotionally, and the words felt like a stone. Caleb retreated. He moved like someone burdened by a shame that infected every step. He left notes saying he needed space. He moved a duffel out of the spare room. The spare room still smelled like his cologne for days after. The estate's insurers demanded documents, signatures, proof. I sat in a sterile office and listened to a lawyer explain uninsured losses. We recovered some items, but not enough. Some assets had been liquidated, gone, pieces of our family sold in markets far away. The more we uncovered, the more my grandmother's portrait seemed to look at me with dissatisfaction. At night, I would stand in the parlor and think of childhood games played on the rug, how Caleb once let me win because my face crumpled when I lost. Now his losses were building, but he didn't cry. Instead, he tiptoed around the house like a man whose shadow had been accused of a crime. Friends advised forgiveness. Blood, one said gently, is thicker than anything. But I had learned the hard way that blood can be a liquor that numbs and poisons at once. How do you forgive someone who took your inheritance as if it were a promise to be broken? How do you move gracefully through the same rooms where a betrayal happened? I stood on the cliff one afternoon, the sea a bruised sheet below. The wind chewed at my coat, and gulls hollered like witnesses. In my phone were messages from our grandmother's solicitor, from the bank, from creditors. I could call him and say nothing. I could call the police. I could do nothing and pretend nothing happened. The choice felt like a live wire in my hand. I thought of the night my grandmother taught me how to fold a letter, meticulous, reverent. She believed in the sanctity of things, of names. Would she rather we protected the family name while hiding the truth? Or would she have wanted justice even if it meant pain? I walked back inside and found Caleb at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug that had long since gone cold. He looked up when I came in, unsure whether I would sit or leave. "Ava," he said softly, as if afraid that louder words would break him. I placed my palms on the table and felt the grain of wood beneath them, grounding real. "I'm going to the solicitor," I said. "I'm going to give them everything I found." His face collapsed. For a second I thought he might reach across and take my hand. He did not. "Please," he whispered. "We can fix this without press." I shook my head slowly. "You already fixed it. You turned our inheritance into a debt. You used Grandma's name like a tool." It felt merciless when I said it. "I can't live with that on my conscience." He folded inward, smaller than the brother who once pushed me on the garden swing. The man in front of me was a mosaic of regret, fatigue, and fear. "I will not cover for you," I said. It felt like a verdict but also like freedom. Not anymore. Legal filings were made. Caleb's name was on documents and in the headlines of the town gossip, but justice is rarely dramatic in the way fiction imagines. It is bureaucratic. It moves in forms and filings. A plea bargain was discussed. We recovered some savings, sold a parcel of land to cover debts, and closed a small museum exhibit of family memorabilia to raise funds. The house lost a wing we'd planned to keep. The garden had to be pruned down. Caleb left town. Sometimes I dream he's still in the next room, folding laundry, humming while he cooks, small rituals that belong to those who remain. Instead, I have his silence. He sent a letter from a rented motel 2 months later. Apologies, admission of failure, promises to pay back, offers to meet. I read it and felt nothing but the echo of what once was. Forgiveness is a slow thing that must be earned in small measures. I am learning to accept smaller kindnesses, a phone call returned, a postcard, a debt acknowledged. The house is quieter now, and in that quiet I discovered more pieces of myself. I started cataloging the photo albums again, naming faces in faded prints, and learning to speak in the voice my grandmother used to correct with a smile. I took up the habit of walking the cliff path at dawn. The cold air clears, thinking the way salt can clear a wound. I found new friends among the strangers who helped with repairs. Their laughter was simple, honest, not hymns of history, but songs of now. One afternoon, in the attic, I found a small box with my grandmother's handwriting. Inside were letters she'd written but never sent, notes about fear, about how she'd once been tempted to hide money away during a war, about the way honesty stayed with her as armor. It felt like a benediction. Maybe she had known betrayal is a possibility. Maybe she had left us more than money, a lesson. Integrity is not the absence of loss, but the way you choose to respond. In the end, I learned a hard truth. Loyalty is louder than blood. You can share DNA with someone and still be strangers to their choices. Money doesn't change you. It reveals what was already there. My name is Ava Merrill, and this is my story of loss, of trust shattered, and of choosing truth over convenience. I won't pretend the wound is closed. But every morning I wake and tend to what remains, and that tending is its own kind of justice. Tell me, what would you have done? And if this story touched you, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Reddit Diaries. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support keeps stories like this alive.